We're on a mission from God.
Wendy?
So I got that going for me.
Darling?
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Light of my life.
We enjoy your films.
I am a human being.
I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in real time. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today marks the 40th anniversary of the release of Fame on May 16th, 1980. It was written by Christopher Gore, directed by Alan Parker, and released by United Artists. The talent manager, David De Silva, heard about a public school for performing arts in New York City and paid Christopher Gore $5,000 to draft a script. He then sold the project to MGM for $400,000.
Really? You just, there's a school in New York, and you're like, that's going to make an interesting movie. I'm going to pay somebody to make a movie about it.
That's exactly what happened. Alan Parker did a rewrite with Gore, but Gore was still given sole screenwriting credit. The school is based on the real-life Fiorello LaGuardia High School of Music and Performing Arts in Manhattan. It is a public school and therefore available to any New York City high school student who successfully auditions for any of the programs. Coco is actually a graduate of the school, and Leroy was actually expelled. The actor and actress playing those parts. Lisa was the only current student who scored a role in the film from 2,000 auditions that took place.
Wow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say she auditioned 2,000 times.
Yeah.
I was like,
finally
fine,
one stuck.
Fine, you can be in the movie.
We'll give you a major role, too. This is the first film in the history of the Academy to garner 2 Best Song nominations, the title song Fame and Out Here on My Own. And it also took home 2 Oscars, one for Best Original Score and for the title song, the Fame song.
See, I thought that this was a musical.
Yes. That's what I thought, too, because I had never seen it
It
before.
is a musical.
I guess.
It is a musical?
Yeah.
There are 3 songs.
Sorta.
I guess if this was the Golden Globes, I would put it in the comedy or musical category.
Yeah.
I guess. But, I mean, it's also interesting because I didn't realize, having not watched this before, that that was an original song to the movie. I thought that was a song that they're just like, oh, this fits the movie really good, and we'll just call the movie Fame as well, and that'll, all go together.
Is there a musical?
There is a musical that came long after.
Crazy.
It came after. So
Yes.
the musical, the stage performance was after the movie.
There was a film, there was a TV series for 6 seasons, and then there was a musical.
Okay.
The feature film was adapted into 6 seasons of a TV series. Leroy, Bruno, and Lydia, and the music teacher all came back to play their parts in the series.
Wait, which one's Lydia?
Lydia was a very small part in the movie, but she had a bigger part on the show, I guess. Lydia was one of the other judges during the dance auditions that was very interested in Leroy's performance.
Oh, yeah.
But that's about all she has in this movie. But in the first or an early draft, it was supposed to be that she was competing with Coco for roles in stuff over the course of the film. But then they wanted her to play more of a center part of the film.
So does the show just follow the same plot? It's just a more extended?
I assume it's like a sequel series.
Okay.
Because if the same actors came back to play the same characters, I would think it would be a continuation of the story.
But they graduated.
Right, maybe they work at the school. I don't know.
Okay.
I never watched it.
Pat, you need to have more information.
I should have watched 6 seasons of this show after the movie.
You do
I
any
finished
research.
watching the movies that we're reviewing hours ago. So I didn't have 6 seasons in me today. Madonna screen tested for both the film and series, but was not picked up for it. Emilio auditioned to play Montgomery for the series.
Emilio Estevez?
The only Emilio.
How many
on the
Emilios
planet.
do you know?
I guess I don't know any.
Not even Emilio Estevez? He's Charlie Sheen's brother.
Oh, okay. No. I sat across from him at a desk one time. He came.
What did you say?
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything.
I think I said hi to him.
No, you have to annoy him out of wherever he is with the Night at the Roxbury quote. You can't just let him sit near you.
This was before, I think, The Way. Was that a film he directed?
The Way? Oh, is that the one with the Culkin?
I thought it was the one with his dad.
Oh. I don't know what I'm thinking of. The Way with Martin, where they do a road trip.
Yeah, 2010.
I think my dad bought that DVD.
So it must have been after, because I wasn't working there yet. So yeah.
He directed that?
Emilio wrote and directed it.
I didn't realize that. It's probably awful, right?
Oh, I don't know. Martin Sheen, Emilio Estevez, Deborah Unger. Seems like it's a good.
How did he get his dad to be in the movie? Must be a great script.
It's got William Holden. Oh, it's a different William Holden.
I was gonna say Holden's dead and buried.
Oh, apparently IMDb has 9 William Holdens credited. He's William Holden IX.
Oh, jeez. IX. That's not good. This film is a debut role for Meg Tilly, who is a Golden Globe winner, Oscar nominee, and the sister of Jennifer. This movie was originally titled Hot Lunch, until director Alan Parker walked past a porno theater featuring a movie called Hot Lunch with an actor named Al Parker, and he wanted to avoid confusion.
Yeah, that's probably a good call there, Al Parker.
Yeah. Hot lunch, I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to eat.
Pastrami on rye.
Montgomery auditions for the drama department by sharing a story about a relationship with his mother, which is actually part of a play that he's reading, but it's supposed to mirror his experiences with his mother. Some musicians and dancers audition for their programs. One of the dancers is commenting on another girl that's auditioning. It says,
"Oh, I really like your nose ring. I'm into culture. Does that hurt or is that ethnic?"
Those are mutually exclusive things.
Bruno's dad unloads a cab full of musical equipment, and a girl, Shirley, checks into her audition with her boyfriend, Leroy, which you saw this coming a mile away what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That Leroy, who was not interested at all in a public school, was going to be the one to make it through the audition process.
I love the scene when he's coming into the school because the lady at the front desk who's checking them in makes him check his gun, or not his gun, his knife.
Yeah.
She's like, he's not going in there with the knife. And then they banter back and forth for a while. And eventually he gives it up after resisting for a while. And then he walks up the stairs and he's like, "I got a bunch more, baby. Don't worry."
Yeah, don't worry. We're not going to get killed here during this audition.
But I like the nerve that the teacher has.
Yeah,
of
they show that she's like from the neighborhood.
Yeah, give me the knife. I'm not afraid of you with this knife.
He's like,
Also,
you sure you want it? And he's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I want it.
She knew he had the knife before he showed it, too. Doris's mom pushes her into a drama audition, but while instructing her to sing a song, because when she sings, it is drama, she says.
See, honey, you don't have to sing for us because this is the drama department.
When she sings, it is drama.
But the drama teacher's like, it's not really what we're doing, but okay, fine, go ahead and sing a song. And she starts to sing and then sort of talks her way through the end of it. Ralph comes in and fails his music audition right away because he's lying about all the instruments that his father used to play. They suggest he try out for dance. He fakes knowing how to dance with tap shoes with like Pepsi Cola caps glued to the bottom, and they tell him to try for drama. He goes in and talks about Freddie Prinze, who is his idol. Doris finishes talking through The Way We Were, and her mom cries like it's the most emotional experience for her to hear this song.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but she's not good at singing, right?
I didn't think the point was supposed to be that she was spectacular.
Okay, like I didn't think she was good at it.
It's obviously it's a choice to go into talking from the singing, but I didn't think it was like.
Yeah, I thought she sang better than she sang.
Which I think was the point. But I think it was also supposed to be that her mom thinks it's amazing because it's something that's very personal to her mom.
Yeah.
And isn't necessarily as earth-shattering to everyone else.
The teacher probably saw
something.
Saw like the pain that she goes through with this mother figure, and probably goes, yeah, she's gonna have a lot to draw from.
Yeah,
we got something to work with here.
And then Bruno brings 5 keyboards into his audition for the music department, and they're kind of trying to shut that down and telling him to cut it down to 1, but they can tell he knows how to play them all at the same time.
And he just has like the best dad in the world.
Yeah,
because
most supportive father.
Yeah, his dad's the taxi driver who's driven him up to the school with all this gear in the back of his taxi, and they're lugging in all this stuff, and his dad's just so supportive.
Yeah, his uncle's like trying to make fun of the fact that he has all this electronic equipment. He's like, why can't you just play a regular instrument like Pop used to? And he's like, oh, my son's so much smarter than that. It's called progress.
Yeah,
he's like trying to talk him up.
Yeah, he's like so supportive. It's wonderful. It's wonderfully supportive.
And then Doris's mom gets the call after the audition process that
we got one.
Yeah, that Doris is being accepted, and she says we're in because it's a co-achievement,
it's a group
apparently.
effort.
Then we get a title card, freshman year. So we're starting the first year of class at the school. Class starts, and Mrs. Sherwood, the Anne Meara character, and Leroy face off for the second time now when he can't hear roll call over his headphones. She tells him not to bring that stuff into class anymore because he needs to be paying closer attention. All the teachers talk their subjects up like they're the hardest, most intimidating subject that the school offers. And the montage cutting from class to class ends with each of the teachers saying, this is the hardest department at the school.
I have to say that one of the things I appreciated the most about this movie was the editing. And I don't know if the script was written that way or if it was just edited that way, but whatever it was, I think that it was stylistically, I really enjoyed how they cut between the scenes and the experiences of these students back and forth so frequently, showing how they've mirrored each other.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the contemporary critics hated the editing style.
Oh, really?
They thought it was really frenetic and confusing, but I actually really appreciated it too. Every time you see 3 scenes happening, we're given the indication that they're happening simultaneously by cutting back and forth between the 3 of them.
Yeah, I guess maybe for the time it was frenetic, but I think that it was ahead of its time.
Right, because we see all kinds of crazy editing now, so it's harder. It might have been harder for them to keep track of the story that way.
Yeah.
Whereas from today's perspective, it's not as confusing as it might have been.
Well, and I think especially with a movie like this where you have so many characters experiencing so many things throughout the movie that, I don't think we really have a main character of this movie.
Right.
And so to sort of stay with all of these storylines, you have to cut it this way.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else you would have done a movie like this without doing it that way, but it was done, very eloquently.
It felt very organic.
Yeah.
Ralph tries to flirt with Doris in the drama class by saying they should accumulate experiences together. He says he has experience to spare and that he lives with 2 women, which he does because they're his sisters. Kids make a lot of noise in the cafeteria that sort of slowly evolves into music, and this is the hot lunch song.
Yeah.
That would have been the title
the
for
lunch
the film.
lady.
Yeah. And Doris...
Slap a Joe, slap a Joe.
Quit it, lady, you're scaring us. Doris escapes to the stairs because she can't deal with the nonsense happening in the cafeteria and sits down next to Montgomery, who seems similarly frightened.
It was exactly the feeling that I had about that scene, though, too.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my God, all these theater people, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Plus, everyone's super sweaty.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
it was like four stanzas from an orgy in this song.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there was take after take is being done, so these dancers are exhausted.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can smell this room.
I would not eat in there.
Well, the amount of people that they have in these scenes are amazing. There's so many extras just dancing and singing their hearts out here.
Monty and Doris become fast friends, and she worries that she isn't interesting enough to make it in the drama department or acting in general. Ralph comes to bug Monty for, I'm going to call him Monty, comes to bug Montgomery for drugs because Montgomery has an analyst and is on medication to treat his presumably anxiety disorders and things like that. And Ralph thinks they're delicious. He also outs Montgomery as being gay here, but then we don't touch on it again for another 35 minutes or something like that.
Or I guess a couple of years.
Yeah, but it's film-wise versus time in the movie, but it's weird because when it comes up again later, they act like it's a revelation, and it's like, Ralph said that at the beginning of freshman year. Why is that news now? Mrs. Sherwood yells at Leroy for forgetting to turn in a book report for the 2nd or 3rd time and outs him in front of the entire class as being illiterate.
And this is super shitty of her.
Yeah.
I think that, and maybe it's just a difference in the times, but I feel like nowadays as a teacher, you recognize the signs that somebody doesn't have the skill set that they should have at this point. Like, he clearly either doesn't know how to read or really struggles with this. And so you take him aside and you try to help him. Like, don't embarrass him in front of the class and berate him, repeatedly because he doesn't have the same background that you expect him to have.
I can only assume that it's because of things that are going on in her own personal life and the fact that she's always shouting back and forth with this student that she thought maybe she could shame him into learning how to read or something like that. But obviously, this is not the most productive way to get that kid to take that lesson to heart.
Because then he goes out and just destroys a room.
Yeah, there's like a whole hallway of like windows over shelves, and he's just punching out every pane of glass the whole way down the hall.
Glass doors over this library. It's just a shame.
Yeah. But nobody says anything about it, and we're not given any indication that Leroy is, like, having to pay to replace this stuff. It's just kind of like, oh, darn it. Anyway, Bruno's dad worries out loud that his son doesn't have any friends or girlfriends or faith in his talent. He's not playing his music for anybody. And he also thinks, like, why did I get you all this equipment if you're not going to, like, push yourself as hard as you can and get... And he's like, well, maybe I'm just not going to be respected until after I die. Maybe my ghost will get all the credit. And he's like...
Did I spend $7,000 on equipment for a ghost? Does your mama cook and clean and wear all clothes for a ghost? A ghost, Bruno? Elton John's mama's got 6 mink coats.
Leroy tries to teach himself to read under a bridge somewhere in the middle of nowhere because he doesn't have a house. He's literally just, like, picking up old magazines and reading, like, Maytag advertisements off of the back of them. But he gives up pretty quick because he's very frustrated with his whole situation. The guys are spying on the girls through a crack in the bathroom wall.
Tits, pointy ones? No. Kind of flat. She's fucking gorgeous. What, little bitty ones with cute little nips like raisins? Turn it around. Look at that ass.
Well, somebody is using the stall that they're standing over?
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually using it or if he's just sitting in there practicing his music. But it was kind of like that kid from Gorp that's just like always in the stall.
Please don't mention that movie again. I don't want to reference that movie on this show.
Bruno argues with the music teacher about whether music should be cooperative. Bruno says that, if Mozart were alive today, that he'd be doing all the music himself, and he doesn't need an orchestra. He can just loop everything and perform it with all kinds of crazy techno filters, and he would mix it himself.
Yeah, which is totally true. Like, even more so now than it was in 1980.
Yeah. Bruno is actually ahead of his time, but the teacher tells him that performing by yourself isn't music, it's masturbation. It's like, no, that's not true. There's solo performances. Mm-hmm. Music is real, regardless of how many people are performing it. Lisa is reprimanded by the dance instructor for not trying hard enough for the first of many times. Doris hears Michael, an upperclassman, is leaving for California and congratulates him on he got some kind of a scholarship to a college. But it turns out he's not going to use it because he's going to Los Angeles to meet with William Morris.
Yeah, he's already got like talent agents scouting him.
Yeah, they came to the senior show, which these kids will have at the end of their senior year, and some agent there saw him and suggested him for William Morris, which was at the time the biggest agency. Sophomore year. The guys are piling up on top of the bathroom stalls again to look at the new girl that came in, but one guy is a little bit overeager piling onto them and is shouting and screaming, and then the girls end up hearing the commotion through the crack in the wall and realize that all these guys are watching, and that right as the bathroom stalls are collapsing under their weight. So that's destroyed. Nobody gets to look at the boobies anymore. Good one. The new girl, Hilary Van Doren, is in the dance class. She seems like she's crazy rich. She's complaining about an evil stepmother, but she also talks about how she's like a shopaholic and spends all of her dad's money. Montgomery and Doris walk down the street talking about painful memories that they will have to present in their drama class.
Well, while Doris is pretending to be blind and being led around.
Excuse me, blind. Excuse me.
She's holding like a little can, and at the end of the scene someone drops a coin in it because they think she's actually blind, and that's what the can is supposed to be for. And she's like, what was that? Who did that? Oh, I guess I'll buy you some coffee. Hilary and Leroy have sex after she was practicing dancing very quickly.
That's just the way you put it. I have in my notes, Hilary seductively dances for him, and then they hook up.
Yeah. Nope,
they just the way you put it.
There's not much to it. Like the movie tries to be like, oh, did they or didn't they? And it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't play any part in the rest of the story, really.
Well, there's definitely a sign.
I think it does.
Yeah,
so.
there's definitely a sign that they did.
Yeah, but I don't think it's relevant that it's his baby at all.
No.
Montgomery plans to tell the class that he's in love with his analyst, who is a man. What? Oh, yeah.
We learned that last year.
We already knew that. Doris kind of tries to talk him out of it because that's such a painful memory, but the whole point of this is that it's supposed to be a painful memory.
She says, like, it doesn't have to be your most painful memory.
But she's also upset because she doesn't really have a painful memory to share because her life's just been pretty boring living with her mom and just doing everything her mom wants her to do. Which is painful, but not as viscerally painful. Bruno's dad pulls up in front of the school blasting his son's music from the top of his cab. He's got like these big speaker systems set up on his roof. And it's the song Fame that was nominated and won the Oscar for Best Original Song. A dance riot breaks out.
Yeah, a dance mob riot with people just like jumping on cars that are passing by. And
yeah, they're like slamming on hoods and everything. Bruno hears the music playing and is upset about his dad playing unfinished music. Ironically, the song was not finished at the time, and everyone was dancing to Donna Summer's Hot Stuff on set. But it doesn't seem like the dad like feels bad about it or anything. It's just like, no, all these people appreciate your music, and now you see that people like what you're doing.
And Coco is excited to hear her voice.
Yeah, exactly. Montgomery does his monologue. Afterwards, he invites Doris to go to Rocky Horror Picture Show with him. Ralph mocks him for being gay right after he gives this presentation, which is exactly what Doris predicted would happen. But then, after defending Montgomery for a half of a second, she decides she's going to start flirting with Ralph, even though he just did this really hurtful thing.
It seemed like a weird turn for me in this movie. That Ralph's a jerk for most of the film, and then she's into him. I mean, I think
she doesn't get a lot of male attention. She's certainly not getting it from Montgomery.
Well, yeah.
Well, but I think also Ralph is just like the kind of person that like teases hard.
Yeah,
like,
and he does that to everybody.
Yeah,
equally.
like he's not. It's not anything against Montgomery being gay or him personally. It's just that this is how hard I go out of my way to make fun of people, which I'm not saying is a good thing to do because they all become friends after this.
And he's also in full drag when he starts this like joke about how gay Montgomery is.
Like he's willing to embarrass himself for the joke.
Yeah, Doris has to break off dinner plans with friends because her mom is forcing her to sing at a kid's birthday party because a 5-year-old's birthday party has to have a singer, right? And you're going to get great exposure because these 5-year-olds are going to tell other 5-year-olds that an old lady sang happy birthday because to them 23 is an old person, or not even. She's probably a teenager at this point if this is a high school. So she sings and it's just a bunch of kids crying in some crappy restaurant somewhere.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
She decides that that's what her drama monologue is going to be about, is that she's like, she doesn't have a perception of herself because she just does things for her mom all the time. So it's just like, who am I? Like the most obvious actor-y thing in the world. And then Ralph's is maybe even worse because it's literally just him crying about an actor that died, which I feel like it's not a personal story at all. It's like something that happened to someone else that just made you sad. But it's a real thing that happened. Freddie Prinze died when Freddie Prinze Jr. was not even a year old.
He was like 9 months old. Yeah.
And Ralph was just sad because he was his favorite actor and he's dead now. But it just seems like such a weird thing to be like, this is my most painful memory as a person I didn't know died that I've experienced on television.
Yeah. Well, I think he looked at him like a father figure because it seems like he doesn't have a father figure.
Right. But then I felt like...
I'm assuming that Freddie Prinze was Puerto Rican. Or something, that he identified with. Yeah.
But it just seemed like we learned that Ralph has a lot of other drama from his life history, and it's weird that he didn't go into any of that and decided instead to dwell on the death of this actor who he never interacted with personally. Like the story of his dad and where his dad is now and why. Would have been perfect for this, but I guess they were saving that for later in the movie. Miss Berg officially drops Lisa from the class because she's not upping her dance performance to her liking. Lisa walks with friends to a subway station, and they're all dancing in a puddle to Singing in the Rain. And we see Lisa slowly approach the edge of the subway tracks, and then right as a train is about to go by, she throws out her duffel bag full of all her dance stuff, and that gets run over. And after the train goes by, all of her friends are standing in a circle around her because they thought at the last second that she was going to jump. And one of them says, "I'll tell you, you're a fucking good actress. Maybe you're in the wrong department." Then we cut to junior year. Bruno's equipment shorts out and cuts all the power to the school. So the love triangle of Montgomery and Ralph and Doris all go to Montgomery's apartment to rehearse a play that he wrote.
I don't know if I'd call that a love triangle.
Yeah.
There's definitely
Ralph is the middle of the triangle.
It's definitely one of those corners that isn't into either of the other two.
I think Ralph is kind of into both of them.
Can we call it a love hemisphere?
Let's call it a love angle then. Maybe it's not a triangle. Maybe it's just an angle. So they go back to Montgomery's place and they're rehearsing a play that maybe Montgomery wrote, but he's sitting and listening to the two characters act, and then suddenly Doris and Ralph are kissing, and he's like, "Wait, you guys don't kiss yet." We're cutting back and forth from this to Ralph's home, where his 5-year-old sister hears someone outside and thinks it's Ralph coming home. She goes outside to check on it and is apparently attacked by a junkie.
Yeah, I was a little unclear about what actually happened to the young girl, because we don't really get a full story.
They don't dwell on it.
The mom is, I assume that's the mom, or maybe the grandma, whatever it is. She's in a church with the two young girls when Ralph comes and finds them and starts yelling at her for, coming to a church instead of taking the little girl to a doctor. And I'm like, well, what exactly happened to her?
Yeah, but I don't know if there were subtitles that are on here. The version that we were watching did not have any subtitles, so I don't know what they were saying to each other in the hospital or in the church.
Yeah.
So we see Hilary bring Leroy home and claim that they're studying together. Almost specifically to piss off her stepmom, that she's like bringing home kids from the school. Coco sings
not just kids from the school, but that she brought home a black guy.
Yeah, that's true. We cut to Coco singing Out Here on My Own in like an empty auditorium with Bruno leaning over the piano listening to her. Bruno's dad sneaks in during the performance and just sits in the back row and waits for them to finish before standing up to applaud.
I love Bruno's dad.
Yeah, he's great.
He reminds me of Jason Schwartzman's dad in
Rushmore?
Rushmore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the barber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like super supportive of everything that his son's doing.
And he recognizes that his son is a genius, and he's like, "I got to get you into the best school." And Coco lies to Bruno and his father about where she lives when they offer to give her a ride home. And so Bruno's dad goes to drop her off at this really nice place, and she's like, "Oh, it's my sister's place, but I'm allowed to come whenever." And he's like, "Oh, I'll watch until you go in the door." And she's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that. It's a very nice neighborhood." As soon as they leave, she goes down into the subway to go to her actual home. Not clear exactly why she's lying about that.
Yeah.
But she is. But before she can get out of the car, even, Bruno's dad just literally leans through the window. He's like, "My son has a massive crush on you," basically. Not in as many words, but he makes it very clear. And Bruno doesn't seem to care that his dad said that. Like, there's no fallout between the two of them. And he's just like, yeah, she probably knows at this point.
Well, I don't know. The dad was the one kind of cock-blocking him earlier. Like, during the piano playing scene where they're alone in the auditorium and then he comes in and, like, applauds it. It's like, dude, they were having a moment.
Where they just going to start screwing on the piano. But then we have the scene with Ralph and his family in the church. And he's pissed off that they didn't take the kid to a doctor. But everyone just kind of says, like, she's all right. But they don't know, like, what exactly this junkie did to her. I feel like there's a few opportunities that this movie misses to show something really tragic happen.
Yeah.
And it skips on all of them.
Oh, not all of them.
Well, just about.
There's a couple of still really tragic things coming.
Yeah, but I was sure they were going to go much worse than they ended up going. So far, we've had a girl that could easily have committed suicide and doesn't play a part in the rest of the film, that didn't commit suicide and committed clothes-aside and just threw her clothes on the tracks.
Fabricide?
Fabricide, maybe? That sounds right. And then this thing that happened, like, this girl could very easily have been killed, and that could have been, like, what was wrong with Ralph. Or she could have been hospitalized, at least, for the rest of it. But she doesn't even go to a doctor. So I just thought it was weird. A weird choice for the movie to come so close to something really terrible happening and then pull back at the last second. Just to show, like, it could have happened, I guess. Back at Montgomery's apartment, Ralph vents to Montgomery and Doris about his 5-year-old sister's attack, and then talks about his father telling the true story this time. In the past, he's said, oh, my father's like, works for the government, or he played in all these bands, but now he's admitting, no, my father's in jail, and he's in jail because he attacked my older sister when she was 5, the same age that my younger sister is now, because I was making her laugh, and he didn't like that she was laughing because he was drunk and angry, and he tried to attack him, but he ended up putting his 5-year-old sister's head through a wall. So that's like the most tragic point in this guy's story.
Yeah.
Which seems like that would have fit better as your monologue for your drama class for a depressing moment. But he tells them this story, and Doris tries to comfort him, and they end up kissing, at which point Montgomery's like, all right, I guess this is your guys' apartment for now, and he throws his keys on the bed and walks out. Doris the next day tells her mom that she's going to be changing her name to Dominique DuPont. Dominique DuPont. Because Doris isn't cutting it. I forget the full name. But yeah, she doesn't think she'll get work with her actual name. Her mom is a little bit mad about it, but then weirdly at the end of this conversation, she says something like, Dominique sounds so smart. She sounds like she wouldn't do something dumb like my daughter Doris would do and get pregnant and have an abortion. And it's like, wait, why are you complimenting the name that you hate and saying that your daughter should stay Doris and get pregnant and have an abortion? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But her mom's just paranoid because she spent all night with Ralph, and she doesn't know what her daughter's turning into. Doris and Ralph go to Rocky Horror Picture Show without Montgomery, which is a little sad. The guy introing the show here is Sal Perot, who is actually the president of the Rocky Horror Picture Show fan club, which is pretty clear from the movie. They feel like a very authentic Rocky Horror crowd doing all the build-up for the show and all the lines, because we actually see a lot of the performances that the audience does during the show. In the middle of it, Doris decides she's just going to get up and perform at them on stage, even though she's not in costume.
Well, she rips her shirt off, so she has like a slip underneath of it, so she's kind of in costume.
Yeah, she could be confused for Janet if someone wasn't paying attention.
For sure. But then she just gets up on stage and starts participating with the cast.
Yeah. But they don't care because, it's Rocky Horror. It's a laid-back group of people. Michael from the William Morris agency is suddenly their waiter at a restaurant. He tells them the story that he went out there and a couple things didn't work out in a row, and he shot a pilot that didn't get picked up, and now he's here serving fried clams to everybody.
Which they order.
Yeah, they order, I think, because it's the first thing that he mentioned, and they want him to go away as quickly as possible to end the awkwardness, because fried clams just sounds awful to me.
It's like just Seinfeld. Gross. The George is like, I'll have the clams casino.
Then we cut to senior year. We're at a nightclub where MC Richard Belzer is handing off the microphone to Ralph, who does a pretty solid stand-up set. The audience is reacting well, and not just because they're all his friends. It seems like even the strangers are enjoying it. Hilary is sitting in a chair in a waiting room somewhere talking to herself, and it's not clear what's happening. She's crying and talking to herself. And then as we're pushing in closer and closer to her, we realize that she's talking to an unborn fetus about all the plans she has for her life and that there isn't room for a baby, and she is here getting an abortion. But that's basically the end of this story from this character.
But this is presumably Leroy's baby.
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a year, or is it 2 years after they have sex?
Well, I mean, we can
she
assume
brought
that
him home at one point, so
yeah, they could have
the
continued.
relationship was ongoing, it seemed.
That's true. François Lafete sits down at a diner next to Coco, and he tells her that he recognizes her from a chorus line and that she's great. He invites her to do a camera test. François Lafete is French for Frank party. Lafete means party.
No.
François means Frank.
It's not a foot fetish thing.
No.
Could be. Who knows?
We would have seen some feet in a second if that was the case. Leroy clashes with Mrs. Sherwood in a hospital.
Yeah.
It's kind of shitty of him. These two characters are very shitty back and forth over the course of this movie, but he hears from someone, oh, she's at the hospital. Her husband's not doing very well. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go yell at her to give me a good grade because I want to get into this other program. So he goes and just right out of the gate starts chewing into her and saying he needs to get a passing grade because he wants to go to some other performing arts
and she
area.
just keeps saying it's not the time. Don't, you know, like, let's not talk about this.
Eventually they do kind of reach some sort of a truce here where he sits down and asks how her old man's doing and holds her hand and tries to like sit with her through this difficult time, but he started it out in a very shitty way. We cut back to Frank Party's house, and he's recording a screen test with Coco. Asks her to take her top off, which she does reluctantly, and she's just crying through the whole thing, and then eventually, I guess, gets up and leaves. We don't see anything else happen here. We cut back to Ralph at the nightclub, where he's starting to do a little bit too many drugs to get ready for his shows, and Montgomery is no longer providing for him because he has ended things with his analyst because that was not a healthy relationship, and he has a big argument with Doris before a show. Belzer is on stage, like, turning and yelling at him because the two of them are arguing so loudly that it's interrupting his show.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a young man who's very funny and very loud, especially during my act. Please welcome the comedy stylings of Ralph Garcia, ladies and gentlemen. Ralph?
Yeah, that's right. Like man said, my name is Ralph Garcia.
He still hands off the mic. Doris just gets up and leaves. He tries to start his set as Doris is walking out and make a joke about her leaving, and the set bombs horribly. He's way off script and can't remember his punchlines, and the audience is not into it. But then after the show, he's in the green room, like, getting himself back together, and Montgomery walks in and he's like, hey, you want to go get a pizza? And like he tries to bury the hatchet with him because they're still friends. And he thinks that he's a funny guy and they can get through this and he can get back on stage and be successful. And then we cut basically back to the school where they perform the senior performance, which is I Sing the Body Electric, and it includes all the different parts of the school. So you have singers and dancers, and then I guess the actors are the ones that just stand up at the end and sing.
They're kind of at the back as the chorus.
Yeah, but they don't suddenly start miming out scenes. It's not really acting. But yeah, and that's the film.
I feel that one of the places this film falls short is just the dropping of characters or unfinished story arcs for pretty much most of the people.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
It ends early.
Yeah. It's like we never know if Leroy ever learns to read. Like, does he ever get help? We never find out if Coco got the part in that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think Coco wants the part in that movie.
But I mean, we talked about, the abortion, but we never see that character again. We talked about Lisa going to the drama department, but we never touch on her again.
Yeah.
Even Montgomery, aside from that last scene, when was the last time we saw Doris? Was after the fight with Ralph. Like, we never see anything.
Yeah, that is weird.
Like, she doesn't seem to reconnect with Ralph or Montgomery. Like, we see everyone at graduation, but there's no, like, clear sign that, yeah, we're okay now.
Yeah. Other than that they don't break the performance and screw up. Like, I thought there was a chance that during this show, like, Coco was going to, like, start crying or something. Like, she's just been completely traumatized by that encounter, but that doesn't happen. So it's just to show, hey, this is what the people who you watch sing and act and dance go through in their real lives, that they're real people who are getting tortured basically all day. But yeah, it is weird that so many of the stories are left unfinished. But what honestly bothers me more is that there's not like one impactful tragedy that takes place over the course of the story. Like, really the worst thing that happens is that she gets tricked into that camera test where she's not comfortable, and a 5-year-old gets attacked in some way that we don't even know. It doesn't seem like she was bleeding or anything. Like,
and maybe an abortion happened.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty traumatic for a teenager to go through on her own.
Yeah, but in a movie where someone could easily have been killed over the course of this story.
Why didn't anyone die?
That's what I want to know. But no, honestly, if Lisa's not going to come back for the rest of the movie, just kill her here. Just kill her. Because it cuts right from that to junior year. From her fake suicide attempt to junior year. So you would have had a summer to understand that these people are not still, like, actively grieving about it in class.
Yeah.
It just seemed like that would have been one point that they could have left in. And I know there was at one point a darker draft of the script that people were a little bit disturbed by how dark it went and that things changed. And I wouldn't doubt that that's one of the things that changed. Yeah. They're like, how about instead of killing herself, she just says she's gonna
changes
switch
majors.
Programs. Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess we could do that and just take all the teeth out of this scene. It just reminds me of, like, was it Saturday Night Fever where the guy dies on the bridge?
I don't actually know.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know if I've seen it all the way through, but I think I remember seeing a scene where they're all like hanging out on a bridge and one of the guys falls and dies, and it's like in the middle of the story and it affects the characters moving forward. But it also would have been interesting to see how it affects the staff when you cut a kid from a program and she kills herself over it.
Right.
But that doesn't happen. But all these songs, like I Sing the Body Electric and Out Here on My Own and Fame, have all like taken on another life after the movie because I knew them. I recognized them hearing them. Out Here on My Own is like a pretty well-known song, specifically in terms of people that are like come from underrepresented groups that need representation. It works for any minority group, really. The director here was Alan Parker. His first film was Bugsy Malone, which obviously had a lot of kids in it, and this was probably less of a challenge for him than it would have been for other people, but it was still a huge challenge for him. He did not enjoy working with the cast. They were apparently very difficult to direct because they're all, young teenage kids.
High school drama students? Difficult to direct.
Amazingly. But they got a decent film out of it.
And then he did like the exact same thing with The Commitments.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to work with another group of like crazy different music.
Maybe it'll be easier this time. But yeah, so he went from Bugsy Malone to Midnight Express and then this. But he also has Mississippi Burning, Road to Wellville, The Life of David Gale. Writer Christopher Gore, mostly credits for different incarnations of Fame, the TV show and the film, and story credits for musical adaptations and stuff. One TV short called Fairies, which I don't know what happened with that. I don't even know what
poster.
I don't even know what a TV short is.
I would imagine like Over the Garden Wall, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. The composers for the film were Michael and Leslie Gore, who are not related to screenwriter Christopher Gore. Leslie is the singer of "It's My Party" and "You Don't Own Me," which has had kind of a resurgence lately as a popular song. She released a remix of it shortly before passing away in, I think, 2014 or something like that. But both good songs. Eddie Barth was Angelo. I think that's the father of Bruno. I don't know why he's credited first, unless he appears first in the film. I don't know if it's order of appearance or what. Or maybe I'm wrong about which character that is. But Eddie Barth played Angelo, who was Aguchi in the Amityville Horror, and he's the voice of Champ in Rover Dangerfield. Irene Cara played Coco, or Irene Cara. She's obviously the singer of Fame. She was the composer and singer of What a Feeling. And she has a composer credit in Flashdance as a result. Laura Dean was Lisa, who did not kill herself. She played Sophie, a coworker of Rachel Green's on Friends, who was ecstatic when their abusive boss dies. She is also married to Bruno's brother, the actor who played Bruno's brother.
Oh, okay.
Or no, sorry, backwards. Laura Dean's sister is married to the actor who played Bruno. Boyd Gaines played Michael. That's the William Morris actor kid. He played Coach Brackett in Porky's next year. He also appeared as Mr. Barber in The Goldfinch in 2019. Albert Hague played Shorofsky, who is the music instructor. He has a lot of soundtrack credits for having written You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Excellent.
He wrote that song. He also plays a psychiatrist in Space Jam. So that's exciting. Paul McCrane was Montgomery. He played Robert Romano on ER.
Yeah, that's definitely where I knew him from. I was going through the cast and crew, and I was just like, wait a minute, this guy was on ER. Oh my God, he was the mean doctor. You didn't recognize him because he's like so young here, and he's got this big curly, red afro thing happening, and on ER, it's all tight, close shaved, and he's starting to he's got a receding hairline, and
I didn't watch enough of ER to recognize him.
Well, he was the mean doctor.
I recognized him from RoboCop.
Right. He was Emil in RoboCop.
Because he's the one who gets dropped into that vat of toxic waste and comes out like a mutant and then gets hit by the car and just explodes into green goo.
The gif that you share with me occasionally. He was also... Sorry, go ahead.
You say GIF?
Yeah, that's how it's pronounced.
Oh.
What do you say?
I'm sorry. It's a GIF. We have to get divorced now.
Oh, you say it wrong?
No.
Oh, that's weird.
No.
The guy who invented it gets to decide how it's pronounced, and he says GIF.
He's wrong.
Oh, okay. Jessica. Deputy Bill Briggs is another character that Paul McCrane played. He was Deputy Bill Briggs in the 88 version of The Blob. Anne Meara was Mrs. Sherwood. She's great. She's Miriam in Awakenings. She was Louise in Reality Bites, and she is the wife of Jerry Stiller and mother of Ben. And she's funny. Joanna Merlin was Miss Berg. She played Jethro's daughter in The Ten Commandments. She was also a casting director. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Jethro is Zipporah's father, high priest of Midian.
Whoa.
What language are you speaking?
Somebody has watched that movie too many times.
I just remember the part where he comes out and he's like, 15, and then he drops one. Or maybe that was something else. Miss Berg was also the casting director on Big Trouble in Little China and The Last Emperor. You don't care about that one.
I mean, if I had to choose between Big Trouble and The Last Emperor.
It's an easy contest, I agree. Although I would have a hard time telling you what was The Last Emperor and what was Kundun, because I constantly confuse those movies.
Because they both have like a little child on the cover,
yeah.
don't they?
Gene Anthony Ray played Leroy. Most of his credits are just dancer, most recently in Austin Powers Goldmember, but he came back for the series. Maureen Teefy, which is just the coolest last name I've ever heard. Teefy. Ooh, Teefy. Teefy. Played Doris. She was Sharon in Grease 2, and she played Lucy Lane in Supergirl, which I'm assuming is a relative of Lois Lane.
Yeah, so in Supergirl, she's posing as a college student, and her roommate is the cousin or cousin. I'm assuming cousin.
I think it's cousin.
Because she's the cousin of
Superman.
So it makes sense.
Debbie Allen played Lydia, who we said before has a very small part in the film, but went on to appear in the television series. She also played Dr. Catherine Fox in 62 episodes of Grey's Anatomy. We all watched that, right?
No.
It's not an episode, not even a commercial. Richard Belzer was the Master of Ceremonies, or MC as it is known.
Which is weird because they actually call him Richard.
They do. Well, yeah. Ralph calls him Richard before when he goes up on stage. He's best known for playing John Munch in some form or another on Homicide, Life on the Streets, and 8 other shows. Law and Order, The X-Files, The Beat, Law and Order Trial by Jury, Arrested Development, The Wire, 30 Rock, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. He gets a reference in Luther. And he's also in a Very Brady sequel, although I take issue with that as being John Munch, because apparently his IMDb credit is LAPD officer, and Munch is obviously a New York PD officer.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's probably not Munch, although I haven't seen the movie recently enough to say whether they call him Munch in the episode. But he was not on The Simpsons. A lot of people online say, oh, wasn't he also in a Simpsons episode? Not that I could find, and it's not on his IMDb credits, so I would say no. He plays himself here. He is also himself in the movie Scarface and in the movie Man on the Moon. He is also playing himself in The Comedian, which is the movie written by Art Linson, who directed Where the Buffalo Roam. And he was apparently the president in Species 2, although I never saw anything past the first one. Oh, somebody get kidnapped?
I think it's time for Richard to go to bed.
Yeah.
Or someone just got unkidnapped and set off one of Richard's alarms.
Oh, God. The perimeter's been breached.
I have to go.
I don't know who Mr. England was. Someone is credited as Mr. England, but his name is Bill Britton, so of course he's Mr. England. And he was Bozo the Clown.
There was somebody
He was
dressed as a clown in this movie?
No.
Oh.
The character name in this movie is Mr. England.
Oh, I see.
But in real life, he played Bozo the Clown for the New York area, which is a famous clown character. You've never heard of Bozo the Clown?
No, I've heard of Bozo the Clown, but you're just like in real life.
Yes.
So...
If you've heard of Bozo the Clown, it was this guy's performance of a clown character.
Okay.
At least if you're from the New York area. I don't know. Isaac Mizrahi played Touchstone. I don't remember that character in this movie at all, but he's a famous fashion designer and regular red carpet presenter and reality show host.
It's just like there's like other people who are credited here, and like Barry Bostwick. It's just like Barry Bostwick.
He was in there?
Yeah, he was in Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh.
Like, I mean, yeah, it's just
Barry
like...
Bostwick?
Yeah,
Who's
I mean,
Barry
like,
Bostwick?
I don't like when they credit people from footage that's in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I guess you have to, maybe.
And I just did when I said that Richard Belzer was on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, because that was actually a clip of Law and Order that she was watching in that episode where he got a credit.
That makes more sense. I'm like, that's an amazing amount of crossovers. Like,
but the rest of them, he actually appeared as the character on, but as a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
30 Rock and Arrested Development.
But doesn't she acknowledge him?
Yes.
In an episode, like
she's talking to him.
Yeah.
And pretends that he's responding to her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think it is original footage for the show, but
right.
in the show he's supposed to be on Law and Order. But in Luther, he doesn't actually appear in the show.
Right.
It's literally just Idris Elba leans over the counter and says, "We should send this over to Munch in New York and have them check the file," because they're just trying to connect the universes.
But the best is his homicide life on the street, because there's a Detective Bayless on the show.
That's right. I knew that if we were going to talk about homicide life on the streets, we would have to talk about that. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this movie.
I wouldn't say that I really enjoyed it. I just feel like with so many characters and such like lack of closure, like there was definitely character development, but
sure.
I didn't feel a sense of closure really with anybody other than they graduated. But to me,
I think that's because it's the dreaded slice of life film where you're not going to get closure because it's the ongoing story of a person.
Yeah, but I very much agree with Richard on this one. I think there's a lot of things I do like about the movie. I think it was well shot. I think it was well edited. I think the performances were good. I think it was lacking in terms of the story threads. It just didn't really do it for me.
I agree that the story didn't have much, and I've made my complaints that there wasn't. They could have lended it a lot of gravity by having a terrible thing befall one of these people. Not that I need someone to die in every movie, but it just felt like it was going to be that kind of movie.
Well,
and then it didn't happen to anybody the whole time.
I also prefer when you have these kinds of movies where you have these sort of like disparate storylines that they all sort of like tie in together at some point. Like we sort of bring them all back together, but they all just kind of drifted off in their own direction.
Right, but I felt like that it was a realistic thing. And I also felt like all the dialogue is really solid between all the characters. None of it ever felt forced or like anyone was a fake person. They all felt like very real, well-rounded people. That I actually cared about everybody. It wasn't one of those movies where there was like, this person's kind of badly written, I could care less what happens to them.
I guess. I don't just sit around watching real people's lives. Like the reason I'm watching a movie is because it's, an interesting version of people's lives.
Because I'm bored of the people around me. Yeah. No, I get your criticisms, but I think just going into it, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. I felt like it was a more compelling story and more compelling characters than I was expecting going in. I thought it was going to be like a silly musical, like a High School Musical thing where everything feels really unrealistic and like stilted and strange.
But I kind of wanted that. I think that play. And I'm trying not to hold a bias to it, but I think I was like, musical. Okay, this will be fun.
Well, you got to get Disney Plus so you can watch High School Musicals 1, 2, and 3 then.
Oh, and the weird documentary thing that they're making.
High School Musical is on Disney Plus, but it's a mockumentary about the making of a musical adapted from the High School Musical films. I don't get it.
Ouch.
It's like so meta, and it really doesn't have to be.
I think I had a stroke.
Of luck. But yeah, up or down, Richard?
Oh boy, this is like right in that fence. I guess I'm gonna give it a very reluctant up. It's like I can't hold my going into it misunderstanding what it was against it. It's very competently made. It's interesting.
You just got catfished by it.
Yeah, a little bit.
But you can't blame the movie.
Yeah. So I mean, it was okay. But yeah, it's a reluctant up.
I am 100% on board with everything that Richard just said.
Shocker.
Except I feel like I lean ever so slightly on the other side of that.
Okay.
I think I put it reluctantly put it down because I'm like, there's so many good things about this movie. Iconic things like the songs and stuff like that. But would I actually tell anybody I know to watch this movie? No, probably not.
I'm going with an up on this one, just because I actually really liked all the songs and I liked all the characters and I liked the writing. I think that it's generally a good film. Yeah, I'd say it goes in my top half, probably. Letterboxd. What are we thinking, guys? Jess, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I have it, it's above the Windows threshold. We have it just above Midnight Madness and just below Nijinsky, which puts it really darn close to the middle of my list.
Judging from the fact that Richard laughed at that, I'm guessing he has it in the exact same spot.
I also have it just above Midnight Madness, but it is directly below Folks.
Below Folks? Oh my goodness. After I say that, I'm putting it directly below Folks, but above Last Married Couple. So a little bit higher on my list, I think, than your guys's. But that is perfectly fine. Everyone is their own person. I think that's about everything for this one. If you guys have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd, where, as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Please consider rating us on iTunes to help people find the show, and if you take the time to leave us a review, we will thank you personally in an upcoming episode. Speaking of, I would like to send out a special thanks to Starbuck MTG for their glowing iTunes review. We're glad you're enjoying the show, and hopefully we don't screw this up. If you're feeling especially generous, you can support the show through patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing home movies, which IMDb describes like so. Keith Gordon is a creative young man who films the oddball doings of his family and peers. Keith Gordon is the actor's name, not the character's name, so I already take issue with this summary. Let's just say Dennis Berg, because that's the character's name. Is a creative young man who films the oddball doings of his family and peers. Barely better. We'll get into that next time on Vintage Video. We leave you now with the trailer. There's not going to be a trailer for this. We'll leave you now with whatever sound effect I deemed appropriate.
We're about to see were taken by a camera that was programmed to take one shot every 24 hours for 6 days. Let's see if you can see anything unusual about them. Roll them. Anybody notice anything? There. Next. There he is again. Next. There, next. There, next. There, next. There. Well, I think you must get the picture now. This young man, a frozen frame in his own life, is a former student of mine. A tragic example of a person who refused to star in his own life. Day and night I rehearsed this young man. I gave him the psychological gesture, motivation. I directed him to every crucial scene. I used every angle I knew. He was on the brink of stardom. Then he plunged into the depth of anonymity. Forever an extra. Never a star.